Okay, so now the big one. This is where you can have your your moment, the hot mic, if you want to call it that. So Texas, number 15, on the STS poll, coming off a big time victory against Texas A&M at home, 27-17. You can argue it was a dominating victory. And then, like, if it were you, and you probably, I know your opinion on it, but act like I don't know. But if it were you, make the case, in your opinion, for Texas to get in the playoffs, or make the case for your reasons for why Texas should not be included in the playoffs, because you know this team like the back of your hand.
Unfortunately, this is my team. I know I went to UNT, so I'm a t-shirt fan, I guess you want to call it that, whatever. But essentially, I'm a realist at the end of the day. I really don't think that Texas should be in. And I think everybody, there's not really a shadow of the script take here, because everybody kind of agrees that you don't really put a 3-loss team in, no matter how bad the losses are. So obviously they had a loss against Ohio State. Usually that's pretty, like, that's valid. I would say that's a pretty valid loss. And then obviously they had a loss against Florida. That one kind of sucks too. They played at Florida, who was a pre-AP top 10, I'm pretty sure. So technically you can kind of make an argument there. But then they got just boat raced by freaking Georgia. I mean, it was night and day difference. So realistically, if you want to say that they're a playoff caliber team, like, okay, well then play good against the playoff caliber teams as well. I mean, you barely could beat a Mississippi State team who hasn't won a SEC game at that point, and barely beat Kentucky, who has no offense, can't figure that stuff out. I mean, there's just so many things that could go wrong. Now you have good wins against Vanderbilt, OU, and obviously Texas A&M. And at those points, they were pretty high. I'm pretty sure AP poll was up. All of them were top 12. Obviously, A&M was at 3 at that point. Realistically, you had to think about the losses too. I mean, that's kind of the argument for Notre Dame as well. Like, hey, your losses are like not bad, but your wins aren't that great either. So it's just, there's so many things that you can kind of put variables into and just stick it into the equation. But long story short, I love my Longhorns. I do have like faith that they can figure it out, and I could talk another 15 minutes about my horns, about what I think works, what doesn't work, but at the end of the day, they don't deserve to get in.
Yeah, and I know I'm an Aggie, but I do tend to agree with that. But I do think Sarkisian has made some really promising points, and focusing in on, hey, why are we playing this non-conference game versus the number 1 team in the country, Ohio State, on the road, if we're just going to look at record at the end of the day? And yes, it was a 1-possession loss, and a great comparison you made between, Notre Dame being, okay, yeah, they had a combined 4 points in those 2 losses to Texas A&M and Miami, and who's the better team now? Well, they won 10 straight. So, okay, well, you played USC and Pittsburgh. That was the only 2 teams you had left on your schedule that were worth a crap, and Pittsburgh wasn't supposed to be as good as they were, as Miami showed in the final week. And so with Texas, Sarkisian saying, hey, look, we're 9-3. We beat 3 of the top 10 teams in the country. We play a really tough schedule. We played a non-conference game. We lost by a possession on the road first week of the season. That's a very tough thing to do. Yes, we did lose to Florida. And then, as you mentioned, they're a top 15, top 10 preseason AP team. They were a favorite for DJ Lagway to win the Heisman. However, did not perform in those games. And what I think Sarkisian is missing is, and you can't, for a coach, I don't blame him at all for it's his job to say, hey, we deserve a ticket. Marcus Freeman's doing it. The head coach for Vanderbilt is doing it. Oklahoma is doing it. Everyone's doing it, saying we deserve a ticket, because that's their job. They're not going to say we don't deserve to be in. No one's going to say that. But in my opinion, from an outside source looking in, Sarkisian is missing the fact that Kentucky on the road was an abysmal football game. Your quarterback severely struggled. Pavia and other guys completely collapsed the team and completely blew them out.
Pretty much beat by like half a mile.
Yeah.
In yardage.
Yeah, and you guys, I don't think Texas eclipsed 200 yards of total offense, at least in the regular or in regulation. But once you got the overtime, I'd guarantee you nobody watched this part unless you're a Texas fan or a Kentucky fan. Kentucky was stopped at the goal line 4 times. They went for it on 4th down to go up a touchdown. So all that was needed from Texas was a field goal. Well, I think that drive, they went 3 plays, -3 yards, and then they just kicked the field goal. So it's like, yeah, you won, but your quarterback was 8 of 20 near the end of regulation. And then flip the next game, or two, or it was either the week after the next one was Mississippi State. It's like everybody looked at the box score and said, holy crap, Arch Manning balled out. Brandon Walker for the Barstool, like ruined the game, running around the sideline like an idiot. And it's like, well, Mississippi State was ahead close to 3 possessions before the end of that game, late into the third quarter. So Texas had to really boogie. And if they lost to Mississippi State, that was it.
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, a big-time win versus Vanderbilt and a big-time win versus Texas A&M. And, I'm not going to kid myself here. We're the underdog no matter what when we play Texas. And that's not a disclaimer. That's not a scapegoat. Look at the history, man. Like it, and I joked with you. This is a kind of good time to joke. I joked with you. I was like, if it's not 11-0, if it's not, when we're undefeated and having the best season we ever had, and we go on the road and we're favored to win, and we should go in there and do our business, because I told you I don't think the better team won in that game. I thought the A&M's offense was a complete shell of itself. I thought offensive play calling was, and granted, you guys were dropping 7-8 players back almost every play. You guys were making Marcel Reed beat you guys, and it worked. And Marcel was throwing everything, line of scrimmage, beneath the line of scrimmage, freaking out, this, that, and the other. And the pocket was getting pressure, and the run game really worked for you guys. You got Arch Manning's legs working. But I was like, if it's not at 11, when we're at our best and we look like the top 3 team in the country, when can we beat you guys? It was so infuriating. And granted, it was a much better game than last year, like just in terms of entertainment. But it struck my pose again, where I'm just sitting there like this sucks.
Yeah, well, I do agree with you on that point. I mean, I made this point to you after the game too. Iowa State last year lost to 7-5 Michigan and went on to win national championship.
Yes.
That's all I'm going to say about that. It's an eerily similar. It's a rivalry game. Obviously, ranks go out the window. Like, when it comes to a rivalry game, it's just something about it that's changed the environment of the fans, the players, the coaches, the whole nine. So when that aspect happens, especially when you're playing at Texas, y'all have been, A&M's been playing off their freaking lights out, dude. I mean, going into LSU, beating the brakes off them, causing Brian Kelly to be fired. Obviously, to go into Arkansas and just have to throw, 45 points so y'all can beat Arkansas. I mean, and also obviously at home, beating South Carolina, scoring them 28-0 in the second half. So y'all have the potential to do it, but unfortunately, I think y'all just played not to lose, and it might have been a strategy by the Texas A&M. I could be a conspirator here, but like y'all playing an extra game and possibly getting more players hurt, because obviously Marcel Reed got hurt a little bit earlier in that game as well. So if y'all had, obviously you don't have Moss, you don't have a lot of your dominant players that are out there. So if y'all were to play an extra game and lose all those players in the SEC championship and they're not ready for the playoffs, that could really put a dent onto everything.
Yeah, that's a great point. That's a great conspiracy too. And and I'll counter that too or add to that, because in a way, when you watch the Michigan and Ohio State game, Ohio State's miles better than Michigan. But at the beginning of that game, Michigan made Ohio State look human, and that's what rivalry games do. You look offensively. Is A&M better than Texas? Yes. You look defensively. Is A&M better than Texas? Yes. Special teams. Is A&M better than Texas? Yes. Head coach, toss-up, probably Sark. I'd probably take Sark, but Elko's making a strong case. Like, matchup-wise, depth-wise, talent-wise, production-wise, A&M across the board was better than Texas all year. But then you get into going to Austin, where they're 5-0, and you play in front of that crowd. And, of course, home and away is a much different environment in college football, and it matters. Like, rivalry game makes everybody human again. If you want to make that into a hat, rivalry games make everybody human again. And that's the entertainment aspect of it, because, you can watch a Virginia Tech game. It's like, oh, Virginia Tech's a very tough place to play. Like, that's why James Franklin took that job. Penn State rivalry game versus like Ohio State during the year. Like, when Penn State's good, that's a really tough matchup. So you can go down the list. It's like, dude, there's some matchups out there that make teams seem human. But like you said, we both think that 9-3 Texas and 3 losses isn't going to be good enough to get a ticket into the playoffs. But that's going to cause, there's things that we can get into it in the offseason, but there's things in college football that are going to go drastically over the top the next 2 seasons, such as declining to play non-conference games, or independence being valued over conference play, or how the conference championship contenders